So we have the story of Moses and Moshe Rabbeinu, and he's chosen at the burning bush. And the reason why he's chosen is the backstory of why Moses is chosen is because as a young child, even though he was brought up in the house of Pharaoh, he's standing up for the oppressed. He sees an Egyptian, a slave owner beating a slave, and he stands up for the oppressed, the slave. And then he sees two other people fighting, and he stops them. And then later the story is he sees others beating up on women, and he stops them. And this is the story of Moses. And then Moses is chosen to be the leader of the people. But it's interesting that at the burning bush, when Hashem appears, when God appears to Moses in this vision at the burning bush, and tells him that I've seen the oppression of my people in Egypt, and I want you to lead them out of Egypt. That's the description, that I just want you to get them out of this oppression. Later on, there's an event that occurs at the end of the story, towards the end of the story, which is that things start getting really bad. Moses comes to Pharaoh and says, you know, you're oppressing these people, you have to let them into freedom, and Pharaoh is arguing with him. And in fact, it says in the Torah, the description is that things start getting much worse. And then all of a sudden, Moses comes over to God and says, I don't understand this. You told me to come to Pharaoh and let the people go, and let these people leave their oppression. I've came to Pharaoh, and in fact, because of me coming, it instigated Pharaoh even stronger, and now he's making their life much more miserable. So he stands up and he asks the big question, why? And then he has another vision. And here the vision is, I've chosen you, you're going to take the people out of Egypt because I felt the pain of the people that are suffering, and I'm going to give you a Torah. I'm going to give you a Torah, and then you're going to receive divine wisdom, how the people should live. So the interesting question is, why doesn't that vision appear in the first place? Moses had the vision and says, I felt the oppression of the people, and therefore God says, I'm chosen to take the people out of Egypt. But he doesn't tell them anything about Sinai. He just tells them, I want you to take the people from a place of oppression to a place of freedom. But after the story, where things start getting worse, and Moses stands up and asks a question, then all of a sudden God says, you know, besides the fact that I want these people to leave oppression, I want these people to receive a Torah. What happened in the interim? What happened in the interim is, we know Moses is the compassionate one, and that's a very important quality of being a leader of people. Being a shepherd of people is to feel sympathy and empathy for every single person that you're a leader over. But that's not good enough. It's also important that the leader is a person that forces questions. It's not enough that a person says, I have compassion for you and I feel for you and I really feel your pain. But the leader is somebody that has to start asking questions of himself and of the people that they're leading. Because in order for a person to really be free, it's not enough for someone to have true compassion of them and say, okay, I really have compassion for you, and instead of you being in your miserable situation, I'm going to help you. That's step one. But there's a more important step, which is I'm going to give you the tools for you to reach your freedom. And in order for me to give you the tools to reach your freedom, I'm going to ask you very important questions that you may never have thought of. Question number one, why are you here? What are you doing in this situation? And if you can ask those questions, if a leader has the ability to ask new questions that weren't asked by the people, that's a true mark of leadership. So God's telling Moses, I know that you're a compassionate person, and I know that you can get these people out of oppression, but could you actually give them a Torah? Could you give them a new way of life? You can get them from point A, you can get them from a place of misery and take away the negative, which is called negative freedom. But could you give them positive freedom? Negative freedom is the elimination of the things that are negative. But could you also give them a new way of thinking? God doesn't know. But when Moses comes along and says, why? And he asks the question, God says, you're perfect. You just asked the question. I'm so happy. Now I know that not only could you give these people negative freedom, but you can give these people positive freedom. You can actually lead these people to a true state of freedom, a true state of enlightenment and receiving of Torah. Not only will they lose the oppression, but they will also ask the right questions and achieve true, genuine freedom for themselves. And that's a true mark of leadership.